Inbounds to Wilson. Wilson and lost it out of bounds. Oh, it was last touched by New York. That's what the official said. We'll see if this is overturned. New York down there.
Indiana is not going to challenge it. There have been times this season where they could.
WNBA refs are some of the worst. They're the worst refs of refdom of any of the refs that exist. They are so continuously, perpetually, just terrible across.
The strangest thing about this WNBA controversy isn't that fans are angry. It's that they're all pointing to the exact same clips. One whistle blows, another never comes. The replay rolls, social media erupts, and suddenly the conversation isn't about basketball anymore. It's about whether certain superstars are playing by a different set of rules. This time, Asia Wilson and Angel Reese are at the center of the storm, and the footage has reignited one of the league's most explosive debates.
Oh, she sure is a protected species. Paige Beckers, the way the WNBA is covering for Paige Beckers and Angel Reese, the way they mental gymnastics themselves into saying, oh, this was just lighthearted. This was just a lighthearted joke. We didn't mean anything by it. Who cares if they bet $400 on a game? It was just a joke. Who cares if Angel Reese doubled down on it after the game? It was just a joke.
For years, one complaint has followed Caitlin Clark everywhere she plays. It started in college, exploded when she entered the WNBA, and somehow refuses to disappear. Every time she gets knocked to the floor without a whistle, bumped on a drive, or grabbed off the ball, the internet reacts the same way. Fans flood social media asking one question: why does this keep happening?
Because she was upset and spoke her mind to the refs, as she should have, because the ref continued to not give her calls that we can clearly see are calls. But I guess when Angel Wilson does it, it's fine. Why? Give me your excuse. I'm listening. Yeah, that makes no sense. That makes no sense. Give me one more. Yep, that makes no sense either. That's not how that works. One thing about you haters is you gotta pick and choose on what you're gonna hate about. Because the stuff.
But here's where the conversation takes an even more controversial turn. Many fans aren't just arguing that Clark doesn't get enough calls. They're convinced the officiating standard changes completely depending on who's involved. And according to those critics, no names come up more often than Asia Wilson and Angel Reese.
Our goddamn mind. Because I don't know if it's just me, but saying that there is more room for self-awareness and accountability for Caitlin Clark on her end as she matriculates through the WNBA and be a part of the sisterhood, if that's what she chooses to be a part of, is one of the most idiotic and stupid things I have maybe ever heard in my entire life. Because the reality is there should be more self-awareness and accountability on behalf of the sisterhood of the WNBA and the media that continue to paint Caitlin Clark as the villain and the enemy of the league that she has completely and totally revamped and revived. Instead of sitting here...
Whether you agree with that opinion or not, there's no denying the debate has become one of the biggest storylines surrounding the league. Every controversial game seems to follow the exact same script. A questionable whistle goes one way, another obvious contact goes uncalled, and within minutes, slow-motion replays are circulating across every major social media platform.
Gotta do better when it comes to Caitlin Clark, period. Especially the media. We're the only country that disrespects Caitlin Clark the way we do. Or they try to vicariously use her for certain agendas, both left and right. And it's kind of ridiculous, man. Check this out. This lady's from Asia.
Fans aren't just reacting emotionally anymore. They're comparing possessions side by side, freeze-framing contact, and arguing that the same play is being officiated differently. That's exactly what happened again. As clips from the latest games began spreading online, thousands of fans claimed they were watching two completely different standards of basketball. On one end, they argued Caitlin Clark absorbed heavy contact with little or no reward. On the other hand, they believed Asia Wilson and Angel Reese benefited from quicker whistles on similar plays. Right or wrong, that perception has become almost as important as the calls themselves. They have a much harder time forgiving the appearance that the rulebook changes depending on who has the ball. That perception is exactly what's fueling this controversy. Meanwhile, defenders of the officiating push back, arguing that Clark's style of play naturally attracts more physical defense and that every superstar believes they deserve more calls than they receive. But as soon as another controversial clip appears online, the entire debate starts all over again. And this latest sequence only added more fuel to the fire.
We go, WNBA's officials expose blatantly cheating for Asia Wilson. I mean, this is blatant.
Just listen to us. We're the WNBA. A protected species indeed. An endangered animal. Angel Reese and Paige Beckers. In their natural habitats, the WNBA. Let's get right.
Fans immediately began placing clips of Clark next to similar plays involving Asia Wilson and Angel Reese, insisting the differences were impossible to ignore. Comment sections turned into frame-by-frame breakdowns, with supporters from every fan base presenting what they believed was undeniable evidence. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't just about one missed whistle. It became about whether the league has an officiating consistency problem that continues to overshadow the incredible talent on the court. That's why this controversy refuses to fade away. Every new game creates another opportunity for fans to revisit old arguments, compare new footage, and question whether every superstar is truly being judged by the same standard. Late in the game, fans pointed to multiple possessions involving Asia Wilson where they believed contact immediately resulted in a whistle. Minutes later, another clip featuring Angel Reese spread just as quickly, with supporters arguing she received the benefit of the doubt on a physical play that looked remarkably similar to one involving Caitlin Clark earlier in the week that went uncalled. Whether those comparisons are completely fair is still being debated. What isn't being debated is how quickly the internet noticed.
Look at Angel Wilson barking at the ref. Look how she's talking to the ref. Y'all were cool with this. Look, so much aggression. Let me guess, y'all gonna call this passion. One more time for the people that's gonna make excuses for Angel Wilson, because we know it's coming. Just look in the comments and know it's coming. Just watch how many people will make excuses up for the same things that they complain about. And this is why my favorite thing, my platform is built around pointing out the hypocrisy and calling out the hypocrites.
That's when the discussion shifted from individual players to the officiating itself. The criticism wasn't necessarily that Asia Wilson or Angel Reese were doing anything wrong. Every player wants the whistle to go their way. If a referee calls a foul, you take it and move on. No superstar is going to stop the game and argue against getting free throws. Instead, frustrated fans directed their attention toward the officials. Their argument was straightforward. If one level of contact is enough to earn free throws for one player, then that exact same standard should apply to everyone else, including Caitlin Clark. Anything less creates doubt. And doubt is dangerous for any professional league. Because once fans begin believing certain stars receive preferential treatment, every whistle becomes controversial. Instead of breaking down offensive adjustments, defensive schemes, or brilliant individual performances, fans are spending hours debating referee decisions. That's not the kind of attention any league wants. Ironically, it also overshadows the accomplishments of the very stars at the center of the debate. Asia Wilson has built her reputation as one of the league's most dominant players through years of elite performances. Angel Reese has earned recognition for her relentless rebounding, energy, and ability to impact games. Neither player benefits when every great performance is immediately followed by accusations that the referees helped them get there.
But the fact of the matter is, individually, Asia Wilson can't draw flies to curve. Her mouth has made her so unlikable to a large contingent of the population. She says stuff that's so out of pocket that if you said that to most people, you might get into a fight. The crap she said to Kelsey Plum, if it was a more volatile individual, that person might have been fighting with Asia Wilson right there on those sidelines. But it didn't happen. Anyhow, they got beat. And hell, last year they talked crap about the Liberty. And I'm going to do a video on that because...
The same goes for Caitlin Clark. Every time she absorbs heavy contact without a whistle, the conversation drifts away from her passing, shooting, and playmaking and lands right back on officiating. Instead of celebrating incredible basketball, everyone is arguing over the people holding the whistles. And that's the cycle the WNBA can't seem to escape. Then another questionable whistle appears, and the entire process starts all over again. For many fans, this no longer feels like isolated mistakes. They believe they're watching a pattern develop over multiple games and multiple seasons. Others strongly disagree, arguing that every superstar from Clark to Wilson to Reese has benefited from calls at times and been frustrated by missed calls at others. Regardless of where you stand, one thing has become impossible to ignore. The referees have become one of the biggest stories in the WNBA. As the debate continued to grow, fans began digging through older games, searching for examples that they believed supported their arguments. One of the biggest complaints centered on the amount of physical contact Caitlin Clark appears to absorb before a whistle is finally blown. Since entering the league, Clark has been defended with extraordinary intensity because every opponent understands that allowing her even a few inches of space can completely change a game. She is picked up well beyond the three-point line, bumped as she comes off screens, pressured with constant hand checks, and often forced to fight through contact before she can even begin running an offensive set.
No one really watched the WNBA from a broader public scale until Caitlin Clark showed up. We like to sit here, and every time something happens, a former WNBA player, a current WNBA player, or someone involved in the league itself likes to sit here and chastise the only reason why people are watching. Meanwhile, we're sitting here. No one has done what Caitlin Clark has done for the WNBA. They now fly private. They now can make a living off the sport of basketball and make millions of dollars doing it because now there's an attraction to watch. There is a player that plays the game unlike anyone has ever played in the WNBA. And whether the current players want to realize it or the former players that won't stop opening their mouths realize it or the front office wants to realize it, has nothing to do with how Caitlin Clark looks.
Fans who support Clark argue that this style of defense is perfectly acceptable as long as officials apply the same physical standard to everyone else. Their frustration begins when they believe similar contact involving other stars immediately results in a foul. Minutes later, they compare another possession in which a different player receives free throws after what they believe is noticeably lighter contact. Those comparisons have become some of the most shared videos across basketball social media, and every new example encourages thousands more viewers to examine the footage frame by frame before reaching their own conclusions. The discussion becomes even more heated whenever A'ja Wilson is involved because she is widely recognized as one of the league's premier superstars. The controversy begins when critics argue that she receives calls on plays where comparable contact against Clark appears to be ignored. Those critics insist that the issue is not Wilson herself, but rather the apparent difference in officiating standards. They argue that Wilson is simply playing the game presented to her just as any competitor would. If officials award free throws, every player accepts them without hesitation because that is part of professional basketball. The responsibility, according to those fans, rests entirely with the referees, whose job is to apply the rules consistently regardless of a player's reputation, popularity, or accomplishments.
WNBA's cheating for A'ja Wilson. We just got to call it like it is. Take a look at this here. I mean, come on. This is an important play in the game, and look at what the WNBA refs do.
Angel Reese has also found herself pulled into this conversation for similar reasons. Reese's game revolves around toughness, relentless rebounding, and constant battles in the paint, where physical contact is unavoidable on nearly every possession. She competes with tremendous energy and never hesitates to fight for position under the basket. Supporters admire that competitive fire because it has become one of the defining characteristics of her career. However, critics argue that officials sometimes appear quicker to reward Reese with whistles than they are when Clark experiences similar contact in comparable situations. Again, the debate rarely focuses on Reese personally. Most fans acknowledge that she has every right to play aggressively and take advantage of whatever officiating decisions occur during the game. Instead, frustration continues to fall on the referees because they are expected to maintain one standard that applies equally to every player on the floor. When viewers believe that standard changes depending on who has possession of the basketball, controversy becomes almost unavoidable. Today, every possession can be replayed from multiple angles within seconds of occurring. Fans pause videos, zoom into contact, slow footage to a fraction of normal speed, and compare clips from entirely different games. Millions of people essentially become unofficial replay officials, examining every movement with incredible detail and sharing their opinions instantly across social media.
I've been hurt 5 times. Caitlin Clark upset. hurt 5 times. I don't know about the first 4, but this is the 5th one she's talking about. She drives the lane, bumps into her, gets hit in the leg, doesn't like it, wants the call. Now she got a dead leg. She's hobbling, getting back on defense, doing all she can for her team. The elbow hurts too. Everything is stinging, but she's doing her job, playing defense. Still, she's mad about the no call. Then we're going to get a call against her team. She's not mad about this, though. She's still mad about this. Call it!
That constant analysis places referees under an unprecedented level of scrutiny. Every whistle is evaluated by thousands of basketball enthusiasts before the next possession even begins. Every missed call becomes a trending topic. Every controversial decision is replayed repeatedly until people either accept the explanation or become even more convinced that something was handled incorrectly. Whether the officials are right or wrong, they no longer have the luxury of allowing questionable moments to fade quietly into the background. The league itself also faces a difficult balancing act because the WNBA has never attracted more attention than it does today. Television ratings have climbed significantly, arenas are selling out, and millions of new viewers are watching games who previously paid little attention to the league. Instead of discussing incredible defensive rotations, brilliant coaching adjustments, or spectacular individual performances, viewers spend days debating whether referees influence the outcome. That is not the type of publicity any professional league hopes to generate. Former players and analysts have also weighed in on officiating consistency over the years, noting that maintaining the same standard throughout an entire game is one of the most difficult responsibilities in basketball. Every contest presents unique challenges because different crews interpret physicality slightly differently, and each matchup develops its own rhythm.
The calling Caitlin Clark a turnover machine it's irresponsible. All right. Many of her turnovers come from her more skillful WNBA players not being ready for her passes and basically not being aware of their surroundings when they're on the court with Caitlin Clark. Her turnovers are not self-inflicted. Okay. Those come from her teammates. All right. So, and the lack of calls, because sometimes when she turns it over, it should be a foul or some.
Ultimately, the greatest challenge facing the WNBA is not convincing every fan to agree on every officiating decision, because that has never been possible in any professional sport. The greater challenge is maintaining enough consistency that controversial calls remain isolated moments rather than becoming the central storyline after nearly every major game. Basketball should always be remembered for extraordinary athletes, memorable performances, dramatic finishes, and unforgettable rivalries. When discussions about referees begin overshadowing the players themselves, the focus shifts away from everything that makes the sport compelling. Whether fans believe the officials are protecting A'ja Wilson and Angel Reese or believe those accusations are unfounded, one fact remains undeniable. Until the league can convince a larger portion of its audience that every player is being judged under the same consistent standard, those conversations will continue to dominate headlines, and every close call involving Caitlin Clark, A'ja Wilson, or Angel Reese will be examined with extraordinary attention long after the final buzzer has sounded.